Hey, everybody. Welcome to our 5 as 1 podcast. And with that being said, my name is Coach Jaime, Jonathan Heimbach, and I'm joined by, in studio today, our co-host, Gerald Foster.
Hey, look at us. We actually did it. We did it. We're in person. It's going to be a whole lot of fun.
And it's good to have him here, get a little bit more interaction. Maybe we can demonstrate some line blocking skills. What do you think? I mean, get out there. Hopefully we don't pull anything.
I was going to say, I'm going to pull something the first play. We'll have to go to the hospital. It's fine. It'll be worth it.
Hey, whatever it is for the people.
For the people.
For the players. Episode 14. This is a great show that we've got lined up. We've got one of Gerald's former teammates, one of my former players when I coached Gerald in the XFL in 2020 with the Tampa Bay Vipers before COVID hit. We've got one of our former players that are going to join us today, Colin Thompson. Colin is a product of Florida and Temple. He's a transfer guy that ended up going to 2 different schools. We're going to talk about kind of the transfer portal and what it is now. But Colin is most recently was just with the Minnesota Vikings, has spent a number of years in the NFL, and we're excited to have him on the show this week and get his perspective with his company, with what he's got going on with Not For Long Media. And so we're fired up to have Colin on the show this week. What's happening with 5 as 1 training?
5 as 1. We're doing good. We're doing really well. Everybody in the state, I feel like they're hearing about us, which is good. We're finally getting our name out there for the coaches that can't make it down, players that can't make it down to Monument, and you still want to train with us. Just talk to us, contact us through Twitter, through Instagram. Figure it out. Either way, I don't care if you find us facts, you can find us, okay? But we would be fine to come see you guys train at your place and just get the work in.
Yeah, there's a lot of training going on. I work with high school, middle school age kids on Wednesday mornings. We get it going before school for those guys that want to get a little bit better, get ready for Friday night. And Gerald's doing training on Sundays right now with those same guys. So we've got a good group of clients, kids that are really trying to improve the technical part of offensive line training, because coaches, we know there's not enough time in the day to do the basics, the fundamentals. And so that's what we're all about. We're about helping kids get to the next level, play as much as they possibly can and get the most out of this game. So appreciate you guys joining in. Please hit the link, subscribe, like the podcast, and send us questions. We love hearing from you. Got a couple ideas from some people, kind of taking some expansion, and we can't wait for once the seasons wind down. We'll see you guys in some different states. See you in Texas, Georgia, Florida, Nevada, California. So there's a lot going on. So if there's interest and you want to expand your game and take it to the next level, hit us up. So we're looking forward to this episode 14 with Colin Thompson.
And with that being said, let's get started.
And with that being said,
I'm really thankful I got that chance to go play at K-State.
With that being said, thank you all.
And with that being said,
I am. Hey.
With that being said.
Hey guys, welcome to our episode 14 with special guest Colin Thompson in the house, man. Welcome aboard, Colin.
There he is, baby.
Wow. Seeing your guys' faces brings back a lot of great memories. It is great to be back. Big fan of the show. Big fan of both of you two in particular from our days together in the XFL and following you guys after. So it's great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Well, I got to do a little intro. I got to tell people, we kind of led in the show intro about who you are, what you got going on. You are kind of the Renaissance man. You got everything going on from playing the ball, doing your own podcast, your own media company. There's a ton going on. You're coaching, helping. Is it Archbishop Wood? Is that correct?
That's my high school.
Okay.
I'm doing some fundraising for them, but I'm coaching football at Lower Cape May Regional, which is in South Jersey, which is 100 miles from my high school. So I'm involved in a little bit of everything. I'm loving the virtual coaching. I've been doing it. We started, my first year as the OC was our first year in the XFL. My first year.
Virtual OC?
Yes, we would finish our day, right, and go back to the hotel, and I would just build the offense on huddle. So I would talk to the coach, what do you want to do? How do you want to do it? His system was very archaic. Colors for formations that didn't even, like red wasn't even like a strong right formation. I was like, all right, we got to bail on this. He's like, bring me to the next, this new version of football a little bit. So it was nice because I thought, I was with you at the time. And so I was using a lot of the stuff we would have. I would be reference our run game notes and, inside zone and whatever. And then with Jamie and Mark and their word association stuff, I thought was really good and was unique and was a new thing. Because every offense, I'm like, oh, that's cool. That's cool. And there's a lot of things that I'm like, I think they could say this better, especially when you're older and you've been in so many of them. Like floss, flood, slot. I love that. I was like, that's good.
Right.
So
No,
I digress.
No, that's great, man. And to be able to help, and you've seen the game at so many different so many different stops. I mean, you were from Pennsylvania. I mean, that's home. Archbishop Wood. And then you ended up going to Florida, right? 2012 was your first year.
Yeah, 12 to
Florida.
Yeah, 12 and 13, I was there. Then they booted.
They're getting. I mean, that was all 2012, 10 years. Jesus, God.
Oh, about to be 30. Yeah, I got medically disqualified there, which was brutal. And they're just like, hey, your career's over. You're not going to be able to walk or run or hang with your kids and all this shit. And I was like, what? What do you mean?
Yeah.
So I just took the time and then transferred to Temple in 14. They gave me a shot.
So we want to hit on the transfer part of your experience, based on a medical opportunity and then a chance to go back home and play back there. Played at Temple, and there's a connection, right? We've got a little connection with Coach Rule.
BBR, baby.
That's a connection.
Coach Rule coached you in Temple, and then after long, you were with the Giants, correct?
Giants, Bears, AAF with the Birmingham Iron, and then XFL with you guys, and then Matt Rule called in April of 2020 during the middle of COVID and said, you want to come to Carolina? I was like, oh, what? Sure. So
no problem. Got a chance to go play, had a couple of seasons in Carolina, and then just resurfaced in Minnesota this past year. Got some great film with a pretty loaded tight end room in Minnesota. And we're looking forward to seeing you here not too soon in somebody's uniform, getting back on the field on Sundays. So, but excited about having you on, man. You got a lot of things happening. And before we get going, we want to thank one of our sponsors, Zoa Energy Drinks. Zoa Energy Drinks is the official energy drink sponsor of the XFL and our podcast. And with that being said, so their ingredients are balanced with intention. You'll feel the focus with every ounce of energy. So thank you to Zoa. So Colin, it's awesome to have you on, man. You have been a well-traveled ball player, but you're transitioning a little bit now into kind of life after football. And we hope it's not after football, it's during football for you.
I was going to say, for Colin's sake, it's during football. He's just doing so many things. It's great to have somebody like him.
Yeah, for us, it's like after football. Like, okay,
you don't focus on one thing. That's our
still hang on to this. But you're burning the candle at both ends. Like, what'd you major in? What was your major in college? And was that something that applied to what you're doing? And it was on kind of your journey.
So, as a kid growing up, like one of the best gifts my dad was ever to give me was he drove me to school pretty much every morning, like freshman and sophomore year before I drove. So like that 15 minutes together, we would listen to Mike and Mike in the morning. And he's like, listen to how they articulate, listen to how they answer questions, the way they pause, all these different things. And I was like, this is cool. Like, I don't know, you're whatever it is, you're 16 years old trying to figure it out. And then I think where it all started with the media stuff, where I got my real education was I was a high recruit. And back then they wrote articles on kids, lots of them. So 247 Sports Chicago would call when Northwestern would offer. And then, scout.com, Charlottesville would call when Virginia would offer. And then in the SEC started coming, that was chaos. So I was doing 2 interviews a night during the big recruiting seasons for a while. So I was constantly talking and my dad would be in the other room like, hey, I like this, I like that. So he was like constantly curating and giving me advice. So that's kind of where it started, where I'm like, this is something I can do. I have great knowledge. I love to talk. I've worked hard for that knowledge too. So it's a part of what I should do. So transfer at Florida, Temple, I did communications, but I never even took like a journalism class or like went behind a mic. Like it just checks a box, like communication.
Wait a minute. You were a communications major, but nothing as far as like,
I
anything of what you're doing?
Communications major as it gets.
No, I don't like all the class. I didn't do it. I didn't do any of that stuff. It was all like, I remember I took like marketing classes, like for comm companies. And it was like, there was a lot of English courses. Like, I don't know. I mean, I'm not saying I didn't move the needle towards it, but I never did. Like, I should have been a host on like the Al Sports Daily, kind of ESPN desk. Everyone's got the cheesy, cheap college suits on. I should have done that. I should have had a podcast. So what really got into it though was, you guys talk about me burning the candle at both ends. I've kind of always been that way, and I actually just spoke at an event about people transitioning in and out of work, and they're like, hey, you're transitioning out of the league. I said, I've been transitioning my entire career. Like, when I got cut from the Giants, I started Not For Long Media. NFL stands for Not For Long. So, okay, let's do that. I could be done playing. I thought I was done. Then the Bears called. But before that, I was, and those 3 years I was in and out of the league before I got into Carolina for the next 3, I called probably 75% of the Temple football games, doing sideline color commentary, up in the booth, travel with the team. I was doing, Eagles pre and post game live shows on Sundays and Monday nights, driving up 2 hours. No one paid me. So that's kind of to answer the question of, that's where my education was born. And it really all started because when I was back training at Temple, and shout out to Jeff Collins, unbelievable, opened the doors for us and encourage alumni. Like I don't know if anybody could physically encourage alumni more to train. At Temple at the time, we had our own locker. We were able to do our wash there, the whole nine. They did everything for us. I trained at Temple, met Dave Feely, who I think is the best strength coach, one of the best strength coaches in college football. He's at Duke now. They're doing great. And he's like, and I got hooked up there. And then because I was around so much training at Temple 4 days a week, they were like, hey, there's a Al Scoop podcast. You want to do it? And they just put this mic in the middle of us, and we all stood around it and started talking. And that's really, I'm like, I can do this better, maybe, or try to. And that's kind of how, that was my education though, all that stuff.
Well, we spent a couple months together, unfortunately, playing for the XFL. We had hoped it would have gone a little bit longer. We were definitely trending in the right direction. You had me on your show a couple months ago, on the Colin Thompson show that everybody needs to go like, follow, subscribe, and we will shamelessly plug each other's media outlets. But
As it should be.
yes, no doubt. But, I think part of this show, we wanted to talk a little bit about spring football and your journey. I've been coaching in I played in spring football myself. I was a guy that was in and out of NFL camps. I was kind of the last guy let go as a center, long snapper, do whatever I could to try to get on the roster. Never quite made it. Played in NFL Europe, and I'm recognizing the Rhein Fire from Dusseldorf, Germany, with a authentic game-worn helmet from that would have been 1999. You guys don't need to,
I'm not doing the math.
I was 6. I was 6.
If you're feeling old, let's just stop right there. But I played in the spring league, and back then it was promoted by the NFL. Like, they had allocation. Players were sent like, hey, we want to find these practice squad guys, and we want them to go play and get 10 to 12 games of film. And it was a great opportunity. And fast forward to when we all got to know each other, I tried to recruit Gerald back in the day when I was coaching at Wake Forest, and he ended up going to Nebraska. It was a real hard commute.
Yeah,
Guy from Lincoln.
15 minutes,
Right.
20 maybe if I took a bike.
Right.
Long day.
So I couldn't convince him to come to Wake Forest when I was recruiting him. But fast forward a couple of years later, he ends up going to the Washington Redskins, ends up getting released. And I'm like, hey, there's a great guard that's going to be great for our system. And then that's how we all met together. And we played in the season. How many games did we get in before COVID shut us down? What did we
4? I from 4.
4 or 5?
4 or 5.
4 or 5.
I know we were getting ready to play St. Louis, I believe. And
Yeah, we got through 5, I want to say. And
5. Okay.
yeah, I think that's
New Year, was it?
Yeah.
Seattle, LA,
DC.
Oh,
See
Houston at home.
Houston. There you go. Yeah, we got
But we got 5 in. We were kind of trending in the right direction. We lost kind of a heartbreaker in our last one against LA. We threw a pick down.
Oh, but Taylor was the answer. Once Taylor got into quarterback,
yeah,
corn dog, baby.
and we had great backs and good. I mean, we had a great group up front, and we had tight ends that were willing to block. Like we had a good group, man. That's hard to assemble, in my opinion, a group like that. And it took a minute because we had to get to Taylor, a quarterback, because he's the third QB. So a lot of things have to go awry for that to happen. But he's the answer, and he's still playing, and he's a great player. But yeah, man, it was a bummer. We were trending in the right direction, and I love the defense, like the cover zero chaos. Like it was just a fun team.
It was a lot of personalities, and I've been able to be a part of a lot of them right now. And it's unique right now because spring football, you don't have the diehard fans. People are just kind of like figuring out, okay, we love ball, and everybody likes football. You love the game, you love the physicality, you love the athleticism. Guys can showcase their talents, and kind of your experience in spring football has really helped you continue your professional career, to get good film, to be able to go out and play, to be able to show what you can do, because you're not the typical spread out tight end. You're a little bit more hard nosed, blue collar,
Somebody that the O-line loves.
Yeah, that's why you're on here, dude. Like you're 6'1", man. All right, like you're
Easily.
That's my biggest bat. Like that's like what I love to carry when the O-line, when we're out to dinner, and one of the vets were like, "What's he doing here?" And like a couple guys are like, "Yo, just watch, just wait, just chill." So I'm very thankful for that. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot to unpack there. It's been great, like you said, and Jaime goes from from the coaching perspective, like OTAs in the NFL, right? You're 7-on-7, and I'll do fine. Like I have good hands, I move okay, so I'll do okay. I'll catch balls in practice, but like you got to be extremely dynamic in the NFL to like be featured in the pass game. Like they're not just going to feature you. You have to be one of one tight end on the roster usually. But the other 3 or 4 plus a fullback, like what do you do to create value? And I think that's what a lot of people don't understand about professional football. It's like everybody wants to be this like cool receiving tight end, catching RPOs. And listen, that's great. And my athletic ability has put me in this spot where I'm at. But it's like, what are the 2 or 3 other tight ends going to do? Because you're not getting the ball. Like you're just not. There's 3 wide receivers. One was a first round pick. One's the most high-paid guy, and the next guy he's about to get paid and leave the team. So it's like they're not feeding you the ball. The backs are unreal out of the backfield now. So yeah, create the reps that I was able to have in the XFL. I really worked on my jump set because of you, Jaime. Like I never did that before. Between you and Brian Angelico in Carolina, I jump set the shit out of people now, and I never kick set, and I have a great kick set.
Hey. End it before it starts, right? Yeah,
He's starting on.
Like,
I'm changing up, kicking with the outside leg.
I love it. He's using line terms. He's up.
How's that to say?
Hold on.
And wait a minute.
So I do it all the time, and I think it's good at tight end because they're like, "Oh, is this guy going to run a route? What's he doing?" It's oh shit, and you're going to get beat late and down maybe, but now the ball's out, and I stun the shit out of them. So it helps me for outside zone. It helps me from like gap scheme stuff. So to answer your question, the for my position and really for everything, it allows you to continue to play. If you're mature and you have your shit together, you will have so much success in that league. Successful relationships, you're going to get bigger, stronger, faster because you have more time to do that stuff. You're going to sharpen your skills. It's like checks every box. What do they pay for your living and you get 2 free meals a day. Like if you're mature and you can handle that situation and understand it's not an NFL logo and I should be there, and I think you'll have a ton of success.
The maturity is definitely it.
Yeah.
I think you hit that on the nail. Like if you're able to understand that, hey, I'm here to play football, here to get better, get my reps, all those things, then you're going to do well. And it showed up for the guys that did stuff like that.
Yeah, you'll have an absolute blast. We had so much fun.
So much fun.
And we kept it fun. Like we
had fun any day we could kind of stuff. It was great.
We had a good group. And really for my journey, like it's just crazy. I got in the AAF because, and I mentioned my dad again, and the impact of parents. I've been very blessed. I have amazing parents. But go back to the University of Florida. I was getting recruited. He mandated I wear a collared shirt on the visits. And I was like, Dad, everyone's wearing their varsity jackets and polos. And I'm like, Pop, it's like, wear a pair of jeans and a collared shirt. It's the non-negotiable. Everything else, and you got to write a thank you letter too. I was like, what? So best thing I ever did. And it allowed me now, because I still have relationships with all those people from Ryan Day to you name it, through the list, because I had deeper, engaging relationships that at the time I really didn't know what I was doing. And then after, they're reaching out to me and congratulating because I fostered those relationships. So I wrote a letter to the recruiting coordinators named Brendan Donovan. Brendan was with St. Louis in the XFL, but before that, he's in the USFL now. He's a scout. He was with the Browns, Eagles, but at the time he was recruiting coordinator at Florida. He came in after Mark Pantoni left. Mark is Urban's right-hand man. Mark's in Ohio State. So I visited, and I was wearing the collared shirt, and I wrote him a thank you letter, whatever. And you move on. I went to Florida. Him and I became pals. I digress. He's with the Birmingham Iron. I'm at a Guinness factory right down the street here. Couple beers. It's a Sunday. My agents are like, listen, we're going to get you in rookie mini camps. You're going to sign to a futures deal. You just finished with the Bears last year. You're going to be fine. We don't need to go to the AAF. Maybe it comes about, but right now I'm getting calls for you for a futures deal. I think you'll be okay. I'm like, great. So Brendan texts me. I haven't texted Brendan this time in about 2 years. He says, are you in shape? Now, meanwhile, I just sucked down 4 Guinnesses. I'm like, I'm in great.
You're in perfect shape. That means he said, I've never been better.
So I said, yeah, I'm in great shape. He's like, call me. So he's like, hey, listen, I'm pounding the table for you. You're in Birmingham. I told him what type of guy you are, blah, 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 blah. Actually, Tim Lewis was the head coach there too. Tim's a defensive coordinator around the NFL. Tim sat behind my mom in homeroom in high school. And I followed Tim's career as a boy.
Tim's our DC in Arlington, man.
Yeah.
I mean, it's amazing how that thing has,
all world.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I grew up going to I met Jerome Bettis and Cordell Stewart and all these Steelers because of Tim. I'm a Steelers and Giants fan because of Tim. Tim's had a major impact on my life. So he's Louis Riddick, his brother. There's all this right in the area where I'm from. So I'll move the story along. Brennan's like pounding the table for me to get to Birmingham. I'm like, all right, I'm going to come. And I went and worked out. And we worked out at UAB. It was a pouring rain thunderstorm underneath like the old awning there. And I won the workout. And kind of the rest is history. I met Ron Selesky.
Yeah, that's right. Big Ron.
Ron. Great.
He worked, yeah. He had been on the block and had done some CFL, did the AAF, and was then our director of football operations in Tampa in 2020.
Great guy. Love Ron. And Ron pounded the table for me in the XFL, and I was the 3rd tight end on the team, and carved out a nice little role. So it was great for me, and you just never know who's watching. And again, from that lesson I learned from my dad at 17 years old, like being first class and going through that, like, you want to do this for your life. You told me you want to play in the NFL. You never know. And so, of course, like dads always are, as Jaime knows, dads are always right. Thankfully, I listened, and it put me in Carolina, and I always asked in Carolina, like, to rule into like some scouts. And once I got closer with folks, I'm like, why am I here? Because I get it. I played at Temple. And of all the Temple cats there, he got ridiculed for bringing in Temple Baylor guys. They're ballers, the guys he brought in. Like, these weren't just like run-of-the-mill guys. If they're good players and you coach them and you trust them, you bring them in. That's just period. You do it, Jaime, with Euro lines. So, I was the misfit toy a little bit, but I played in the league a little bit, and I had some film. So I asked the tight end coach, I asked the head post scout, and I'm like, why am I here? He's like, Rule came to me and said, everyone I coached at Baylor and Temple that are in the minor leagues, I need you to grade them. The O-line coach and the head scout. Because I felt a little, not guilty, but I wanted to be sure that I'm in the right place.
Love confirmation. I get that.
Right? Why not? I know I can play. So in practice, I'm playing at that level. I'm okay. I know that. But I want to know, especially when I got settled in there and I had those relationships. I'm like, okay, I know I can play in this league. I'm having success. But how did I get here? He's like, Rule asked us to grade everybody, and you were number 3. So we brought you in. That's it. I was like, that's it? It was like PJ. Who else was in there with us? It was like PJ and me and one other guy. And I was like, okay, great. So that's how I ended up being the 4th tight end in Carolina. I know I'm all over the place, but you just never know who's watching. And then I was the fourth tight end there, and the third guy didn't take his COVID test, and he had to miss half of practice. Rules either you get fined $50K, that's an organizational rule from the owner. You get fined $50K and you don't miss practice, or you miss half of practice and you don't get fined $50K. So he missed half of practice. I played well in that practice, became the third guy, made the team. So crazy, man. Crazy stories. Crazy.
That's as crazy as it gets. You bringing up rule really does. It's going to us the next. Now, before we do, all right. We do want to thank our sponsor, Fix Sports. They're Colorado Springs' #1 sports facility. Take your skills to the next level with the proper training, muscle activation, nutrition, physical therapy, and sports performance. It's a great place. We use it on our Wednesdays, Sundays. Good people. Okay.
Here we go.
Here we go.
Acted real nice. And guys, let me just set this up real quick.
Set this up.
This show has been like in the making for about 3 weeks now, but we had to wait.
There are
Many weeks for the Huskers to get a W, for Gerald to be like okay on camera.
to make it so I wasn't going to be a problem out here. That's what this
KBR, let's go.
Go Big Red, baby. Go Big Red. After Nebraska pulls in a 35-3 dub over, I'm not going to say the team. Oh, so okay.
Big win,
NIU.
baby.
It was NIU. Sorry that we had to find one to come, but it was a win. It was a big
Good
win.
Mac school.
We needed it. It was a big high school. We have
High school. High school.
Back school.
Oh, these are big bag. That takes a big high
You're
school.
not playing sufficient Gorman level.
We're not.
All right. But
Yeah.
the schedule doesn't get much easier for the Huskers, right?
Okay.
Are we more?
We got Louisiana Tech.
Oh,
That's a win. I believe it. I'm
Okay.
calling it. I need it. Like if I don't say it now, that it's gonna hurt.
It's a win.
It's a win. And then we play Michigan, and that's gonna be a close game. #2 team versus a team that has maybe 2 quarterbacks that we don't believe in.
You tell me when I'm ready, Gerald. I'll give you the whole tea right from the horse's mouth.
Let me hear it.
All right, so
Apply it for Coach Rule.
Yep. That's a
Okay.
good start.
I played for Coach Rule at Temple 14, 15, and 16. Now, a lot different then than it is now. It was a little nutty, but that's what produced, I think the Temple's got the most NFL players. Plus, we have a ton in the XFL and CFL that had a lot of success. Tons. And then place stunk. When they were my only offer when I was transferring, I'm like, this is horrible, but I have to go here. And it was the best thing ever to happen to me. Okay, so I coached 14, 15, 16 with Coach Rule, and then 20, 21, and some of 22 with Coach Rule. And all this assistants, I know the whole staff. There's a lot to digest. So he told me this. I said, what's going on? And we spent some time together and down the shore in the summer, Jersey Shore. I said, okay, what's the deal? He says, we're in our second year at Temple. I'm like, okay, so we were 6-6 of the rebuild. He's like, we're in that wheelhouse of the team. X amount of the players are bought in. We have amazing support from the people above us, right? Because the first year at a place, you got to convince everyone to support you. They have it right away at Nebraska. He's like just so jacked up. Now, the former president, Ted Carter, left for Ohio State. Ted brought Rule in because when he was at Navy, we played Navy and beat the shit out of them, which never really happens. When they were humming back in the day with the triple. Right. This is in the Navies now, but back then it was tough, man. I felt horrendous at every game we played them. And I was on offense. God bless the guys getting cut on defense. But he was like, Matt, we're going to hire you at Nebraska because I saw what you did at Temple. All you got to do in Nebraska is beat the hell out of people, honest, hardworking guys, and play good, sound football. And I think that's shown through. I mean, I get it. The wheels came off the bus there a little bit against Colorado later, but they beat the shit out of them early.
I said the same thing. When you're looking at that defense,
they ran the ball right at them, and defensively, they caused problems. Especially their front. They got guys in the back end flying around, so it looks like the people are buying in, right? Not everybody. That's part of taking over a new roster. But again, if Deion's not doing what Deion's doing either, I think you're like, all right, they're on the right. This is a part of a rebuild. So I only hear great things. Again, that's from the horse's mouth and from other people, but it's optimistic. It should be optimistic, folks, in GBR land, because he's going to do it the right way. It may just take some time.
How hard is it, in your opinion, to rebuild, or I guess how much easier is it now to rebuild a roster now compared to when you rolled into Temple and you were probably one of the few transfers on that roster? What, handful of guys, maybe a couple JC, one or two guys. Now all of a sudden it's like you're seeing free agency. Do you see him overturning that roster at Nebraska and pulling some guys in that are going to fit that type of deal? Or do you think he's the type of coach that's going to mold the guys that are already there?
I think the vast majority are going to be bringing the right people in that are going to allow him to mold them. And there's certain families probably that are like, well, you're going to go here. You're going to play your 4 years. You're not transferring. You know, I think there's going to be a little bit of that. Again, this is my opinion.
Right?
This is my opinion. This is not from the horse's mouth. He's going to want to bring the molded guys in. And then, of course, in the transfer portal, after success, if it's the right fit, emotionally, mentally, academically, and I know everybody says that, but that's how he operates. Do they gel right? We had two guys transferring our senior year at Temple. And I had to pick one of them, essentially, because I played with one in high school and the other one I grew up with. One played tight end, one played O-line. And they're both great guys. And I don't know, I haven't watched anyone play football while, Coach. It's like, which one would you go to bat for personally over the other? That's what he asked me. And I was like, him, you know, like, and I love the other guy too, but I haven't been around him. I was around the other guy more. So I was like, him. And that was a really tough thing on me, but that's how he operates. So to answer your question, Jaime, I think he's going to develop, and like any smart coach, you're going to see what the world presents itself, and you go out and get a couple guys in the portal, but he's going to run duo. They're going to have a good defensive line. They're going to take shots and play action, and then sometimes they're going to line up and run RPO. So that's kind of how it was at Temple with, you know, PJ Walker. If you're want to be a football player in the NFL, the things I learned there translate directly into the league, period. And I don't know if I could say that about every place, and that's okay, but I needed that, and it was the best thing ever happened to me.
It was fun to see he brought the triple option back to Nebraska. Hadn't seen that in forever. It pulled across the face, and then we got option running out. I was like, okay.
You got
I was
full
like, do it again, baby.
Yeah, they'll lean into the culture there. They love Lincoln, you know, and everyone's like, Lincoln, what's he doing? You know, like, why is he doing that? He should have took a year off, right? All that stuff. But he's built for that. I hate the thing. He's a college coach, and I get that, but we did some really good things in Carolina, and I think a lot of players let him down. I do. And I was a sad day for me when he got fired. A part of it felt like me. A lot of guys felt that way. Now, of course, there's things that could always be improved on. You could say that with every staff, even the teams that win. But, you know, I think he gets a bad rap of just the college coach, because there was a lot, especially his second and third year. The first year was COVID. That was chaotic. And that was chaos. The second and third year, he was just unbelievable, in my opinion. And it just wheels fall off the bus. Go ahead, Joe.
Okay, you would be the perfect person to answer this for me. The young guy that we have at the wide receiver spot, coach.
Garrett McGuire, baby.
Thank you. Please. When they brought him in, I was like, this dude's like 16 years old. What are we doing? Like, why is he a part of our programs, like our coaching staff? He could show up and, you know, be at one of the games and I wouldn't notice that he was a coach. But does he have something about him? Is there a spark that I don't know about?
Other than Matt Johns at William & Mary, who's a good buddy of mine, he's a quarterback's coach. I think other than him and maybe a few other guys I'm forgetting right now, when it comes to young coaches, under 30 years old, you have the two best in the country. One's Rob Dvorak, he coaches linebackers. And the other is Garrett McGuire. That guy, his dad, is the head coach of Texas Tech.
Yeah.
And Joey, his father, was a high school football coach and got hired by Rule, because Rule met with him and was like, you want a job? Like, he coached every position at Baylor and then got a head job out of it. So that shows who he is. That's his dad. And then Garrett, he could have left to go to Texas Tech. He says, I'm going to, tie myself to Coach Rule here at Carolina. And then, all right, you think he's going to go to Texas Tech and go with his dad? No, he goes with Coach Rule and he's the youngest position coach in college football, I believe. The guy's elite. He works his ass off. He's an unbelievable, human. He's a friend. So I think the age thing, I get it. But at the end of the day, the relatability factor, he's just did it. I'm a fan. That's all I got to say is I think it's he's just like any other receiver coach you're going to have, I believe, because the guy is a sponge. He's always been a sponge. There's some guys that are great players that you think, oh, he could maybe be a good coach, that we all know can't be. But he could talk ball at a really high level. He really can. And they got two young guys. The linebacker coach, Rob Dvorak, is an elite coach who was under Mike Sarabo, who's now a linebacker coach at the Vikings and played for Sarabo. I played with Rob at Temple, blew his knee out, got infected, took the cartilage out of his knee, career over. But he was a lot like Tyler Medikevich. I don't know if people know them on this show, but leads the NFL in special teams tackles, Temple guy. I digress. So you got good guys there, Gerald.
I got good guys. I needed to hear that. I'm going to have to just sit down and have a beer with the guy.
Oh,
we'll figure it out. We'll see.
He's going to want to have a dozen. He's going to have a dozen.
Hey, perfect segue. Because, you talked about relatability as a coach. You want to be able to, coaching and the relationship with players, you have to be relatable. I mean, I coach Gerald. Now we work together. Colin, I see you as a guy that I can speak to as a coach, that you're going to have insight. And, you want higher level thinking players. And you want a guy to say, okay, I like it, coach, but tell me why. Or I would ask you guys, and I've asked my guys that have coached forever, do you have another way? Do you have insight? Because everybody's come from different places, and being relatable to players. And that's what I tried to do this past year with the XFL, with our group in Arlington. I had a pretty veteran group. And we would go spend time. We would go to one of our sponsors.
Look at that. Look at that plug. Oh, man.
Let me drop in a special thank you to Vaqueros Texas Barbecue. So we would take the boys out to up in Grapevine. It was about 20 minutes north of where we were stationed up in Arlington. We'd take the guys out and they would feed us barbecue. So Trey and the guys took care of us at Vaqueros. So we want to say a special thank you. It's family tradition since 1979. Trey, I know you're expanding. There's potential a second location. So Gerald keeps talking about coming down to Texas.
Bringing up
season's going. But then you also brought up having a couple beers with Coach, but we want to thank right next door, Hop and Sting Brewery. They would hook the boys up also with a little
libation.
O-line Masterminds IPA. We're
a couple of drinks.
We're hydrating right now.
Good. This is good hydration. No worries.
Yeah, we're you got to go back to work.
We still got stuff to do.
But Hop and Sting Brewery voted best brewery in the DFW area 6 years running. So if you're in Grapevine, if you're in Texas, DFW area, stop in, see Vaqueros Texas Barbecue and Hop and Sting. But that was one of the things, when we found out the league was done, we were like, okay, it's this thing called COVID. And everybody in Florida was like, yeah, whatever. We're not too worried about it. And they all kind of turned their nose up at this thing. And we all said, okay, this is done. I ended up getting my helmet on the way out. Sorry, Colin, we might have to get you a lime green Tampa Bay Vipers helmet one of these days.
I have to go find somebody.
Yeah.
No, I mean, we went out.
And we hung out together and we were like, okay, it's all done. But we're all coworkers in this thing.
And was it American Social?
American Social outside. I remember Jaime walking up. I'm like, let's go. Because that's what, listen, I try to be friends with every coach I've been with, because what else are we doing? You can coach the shit out of me, but when we're off of that coaching player role, we should be friends. And I've been very close with a lot of my coaches, personal level. And even in Carolina, even in Minnesota, they're like, dude, you're best friends with Angelico, lieutenant coach. I'm like, yeah, why not? He coached me 2 years in Carolina. He recruited me to Rutgers and Pitt. We've connected over the years. I stay in touch with folks. Yeah, Jaime walked up. We had a couple beers. Gerald and I and the whole team went out to St. Peter's Postcard Inn and posted up there.
Yeah, we did, baby.
Good times.
You know, got to do it the right way.
We would take an Uber. I'm like, screw it, guys. We'll just split the Uber. It's like $20 a guy. We would Uber from our hotel in like Lakeland all the way out to St. Pete, like an hour. Bring a 6-pack. Sorry. Bring a couple O-line mastermind IPAs, and then go. We would get pub subs, walk on the beach, fill a cooler. It was a great time. I love playing.
No, that's something. You are the person. He's the person that introduced me to pub subs.
Oh yeah.
Being out the Midwest, you don't have something like that. He goes, "Hey, we're going to
Publix."
And I was like, "What's Publix?" He was
You
like,
mean Yarborough?
"You're gonna love this place." I thought it was a nice restaurant. And when he showed up, I was like, all right, this is it. And he was like, "Yeah, come on, we're going inside."
Here's what you do. You go into Publix, get yourself a hoagie. You get a styrofoam cooler, you get a case of beer and a bag of ice. And you go out on the beach, sit on the beach, you have a day. And then you take the styrofoam cooler, you throw it out, and then you just go bar hopping. That's what we did.
That's exactly what we did.
That's how we started our pandemic. That was it. Like after that, and then like the world stopped for the next 6 months. And
Exactly.
thankfully for you though, like between your connections, you were able to reconnect and you got the opportunity to go to Carolina, and to kind of pull this thing back in, because like we can talk stories all we want. And, like we had a great time and there was no doubt. And we enjoyed the opportunity. It sucks that the XFL didn't get to finish that season, because I think it was really trending in the right direction. Not only our team, but the league was. And there's talk right now of an XFL and a USFL merger between both leagues right now. And I think, with both of your perspectives, you both, and myself included, I played in spring leagues, I coached in them. This past 2 years, the USFL, which is owned by Fox, has done well. They've kind of gone with the hub model, like everybody stayed in Birmingham year one, and then it spread out to 4 different locations. They were in Canton, they were in Michigan, they were in Memphis, and then still in Birmingham. And then in the XFL this past year, we just all were in the DFW area, but then we would go play in the home markets. When you guys were playing in the XFL in 2.0, there was no other competition. It was just us, and you guys were getting great film, and I think it helped you guys to get to the next level. Now there's 2 leagues, and they're talking about combining them. Colin, your take, you've seen it from the highest level in the NFL. You've been in the AAF where it, ran out of funding, to being in the XFL where a pandemic shut the league down. Now there's 2 separate entities, one owned by Fox and another one owned by Redbird Capital, which is backed by ESPN and ABC and Disney. So it's like, how does all this work with TV markets, with everything that you see going on? Do you think it's something smart to have 2 leagues make into one?
I think it's the ideal thing for 2 leagues in one. We talked about this before with talent, and also with talent for coaching. It gets more support behind the people that support the coaches and players too, athletic trainers, scouts. Like, let's beef the minor league up even better. Why would we want to have a AAA, AA, single A? Let's just have one big AAA system. I think that's the best analogy for it. And you guys can talk about this, but this is all possible because of The Rock, I'm assuming. Like, that guy's impact, because he's a player, like, first and foremost, like, we all have respect amongst each other, whether The Rock or it's Jaime or Gerald or myself. Like, it's all the same eye contact and conversation because we went through it. But the fact that he's the most successful, actor in the world, his WWE background, his relationships, and I can't speak to how that league was. I enjoyed the XFL before. I had a blast. I thought it was first class, especially as first class as it could be. So I think it's fantastic, and it's probably possible because of him, because he has all these relationships, and they're going to invest in him because the guy wins at everything. His group wins at everything. So
that has to be it. I mean, that's the only thing that makes sense to me.
He's the best guy to buy the league. He had to.
He's the guy. You got to. I mean, if you're able to jump on his bandwagon, then you do it. And for these 2 leagues, because we talked about just a little bit, just us 2, these 2 leagues, for them to just be battling each other out for who's going to be top dog, it's going to turn out being one team, one league's up and we don't find any growth because they've been putting in all their resources to try to bash another team. And instead, we could just bring these 2 teams together. We'd be able to work harder. I think it's going to accomplish more if we find out that these two leagues are able to come together, because the coaching, the players, the ability to get out on the field, if there's that many more chances, definitely, already in the States, instead of having to go to Europe or having to go to Canada, he's going to work out better for us.
That's a great point. I'll say this, though. I am jealous of Jaime going to play over in Europe, because that sounds
no, he would be fine. You're right.
Be behind the original XFL in 2001 when I played in that, because for me, I had just started my coaching journey. I GA'd, then I went back. We actually had training camp in Vegas where I was living, and I got to go back and talking about the 2001 original XFL. We got to go back, and I got to go back and play in Southern California in the LA Coliseum where I went to school at USC. That was awesome. For me, it was special. We won it. We kicked the hell out of everybody. I mean, I walked away with six figures as a graduate assistant making bologna and cheese money. Like, this is real deal. I had a blast because we had great dudes on the team. Tom Luganville was our quarterback coach. We had Tom on a little while.
Yeah, he was great.
It was just super fun. But behind that, NFL Europe, to go be able to play in Frankfurt, Barcelona, Amsterdam, Edinburgh, Scotland, like,
send me down
to be able to do all that. And it was like, I'm getting good film. And I was playing center, and I was also long snapping, and I was trying to do whatever I could to show that I could be a utility guy. And I got enough film that I got signed by the Chiefs the next year. Got to go to camp because of that opportunity. And like, the coaches in NFL Europe saw me play with the Cardinals, and I only played in one game. In preseason, when I was with the Arizona Cardinals my rookie year, I played left tackle in the fourth quarter against the Detroit Lions. And it was like, I was so like fish out of water because they had some injuries and guys didn't want to play in the preseason. I'm like, shoot, I'll go.
Stay inside out. You're just like, stay inside out, stay inside out, stay inside out.
I'm like, I'm jumping the cadence. I'm running everybody out of the field. I only played like 15 snaps, but that Phil got me picked to play in NFL Europe and then got the opportunity. So it's like, to be able to go play and see the world. I proposed to my wife during the time when we were over there. Like, we played in Berlin, and I take her on a flight, and we go to Paris. We had a couple extra days, so I took her to Paris. And Galen Hall, the old Florida head coach, was our head coach in Europe. And he's like, hey, as long as you're back by the Tuesday morning meeting, like, I was sprinting in there that morning. But it was awesome. I took her to Paris, proposed right underneath the Eiffel Tower. Like, NFL, thank you for having a European league that I could go play, and met a bunch of great dudes, and still are in communication with a lot of those guys from, this is 1999, and here we are so many years, and it's still continuing to grow. And eventually, I think the NFL will I hope that the NFL will eventually take over one of these spring leagues, whether it's USFL, XFL, combo, whatever league you're going to call it here by next season. Hopefully, they'll recognize the world champion two-time, since I won the USFL 2 years ago.
Put him back.
XFL.
Bring him back, baby.
Just hoping I got a job next year, whatever expansion team there is. Maybe they'll bring back the Denver Gold back in the old school days of the USFL. But
back to Tampa Bay Vipers, baby.
Raymond, Tampa Bay Vipers back. I'm coming.
Playing at Raymond James on the grass, man.
Get me stressed out.
American Social,
Hat
Tricks, all those places we would go to. That's the beauty of our game, right? You invest in the game and invest back in you socially, economically, whatever it is. But really, like what you're saying, how old were you? 22, 23?
When I was playing back then, back in the day.
Yeah, back in like, I'm saying when you're in NFL Europe.
Yeah. I mean, I was like early 20. I mean, I'm just 23, trying to find my way to scrape it along. And all of a sudden I'm getting great experiences and meeting great guys.
Awesome. I think the one thing that the NFL will do is end up over in Europe somehow, some way. That's happening.
It's been slowly tracking that way.
Yeah.
The way it looks, I mean, they're trying their hardest to make it so, because, these first couple of years are more them trying to see what's the market. Do people really want to watch football, that's not soccer over there?
Yeah.
I think it's turning out to be pretty good.
Yeah, I'm a huge Tottenham Hotspurs fan. That's a hat I'm wearing. That's where they play. So I was over there last year. That place is unbelievable. Don't go for a football game, football guys. Go for a soccer match. You're like your jaws on the ground, and it's like a whole experience that I've never experienced it's so much different than American sports. It's so cool. So cool. Culture, so much fun. But I just think, do you put a team there and you uproot families and all that stuff? That's really tough. Or you just have games there every week. I think that's way more doable. You have guys do a trip over there. You just say, hey, you're going to play on this Saturday in Germany and next Sunday in England or Ireland or whatever. I think that's going to come here. I mean, it's already happening, but I think it's going to grow even more. Why wouldn't it?
Why not, right? And I guess for our last sponsor before we keep moving forward, Ray Crowther and Tip of the Spear Blast Shields. Blast hand shields allow coaches and players to take the most dominant techniques in the game into their own hands during practice and training sessions. Thank you guys so much for being a sponsor of 5-1.
The Crowther sled. I lived on that thing. I still do.
Yeah, they keep us going.
There's nothing better than the 2-man Crowther sled from Crowther.
That's a build. That's how you build men, right?
You find out if a guy can have a base, has some power, can get his hips underneath him, lay him down. If that sled spins, that dude's getting cut. Like, he ain't gonna last. If you can sustain a Crowther sled drive and work that progression, that is the one true thing that an offensive line coach, if a guy can get underneath and sustain a block, that's the closest thing to it. So we love using Ray Crowther, Tip of the Spear. I mean, you guys are awesome. You're innovative with your shields and with your teaching fundamentals, and it's all about keeping the head out of the game, like keeping guys safe. And it's a hard enough sport on our bodies. I mean, I was talking to somebody this morning about just, hey, do you have any effects, lingering effects? And I was very fortunate that I stayed healthy through most of my career. And, you guys, I'm sure, had plenty to deal with when you're in college, when you're in the NFL, when you're in pros. But this game has to evolve. And I think our coaching and our teaching has to evolve. And, there's so much more access into the game right now. I mean, Colin, you see it from your, for Not For Long media, people, right after games, you got these armchair experts giving expertise evaluation on, I can't believe that third down call, or what about this, or what about that? And it's like, you can't hide anymore. Everything is seen. And so, like, in your experience from what you've seen in media and how the access has improved, I guess the XFL had a lot to do with that within your time. Like, they had cameras all over. We were mic'd up, the whole deal. You have any kind of final takes on the access that the game has right now?
Yeah. I mean, those armchair experts are awesome because it makes guys look like guys like us really genius and more credible. So
keep it up.
Everybody else, just keep pouring into this game because the salary caps go up, everything goes up, and everyone makes more, dough. And again, that's not what it's all about. But at the end of the day, it's really unique. I'll go from the coaching perspective. I don't have to say what inside zone is anymore with a tight end, cross sifting and him bluffing. And I just send it because it shows up on my timeline. I follow all those guys for the run game stuff, for the O-line indie drills. So I could send it to coaches because those stuff is all online now, which I think is really cool. And that will grow the game more than people will know and more than people will realize down the line, because now you oh, okay, this is cool. I'm sending your drill work. I'm sending somebody's drill work to the coaches directly instead of me being like, okay, here's the drill. So there's that. I think the access stuff. I watched the All-22 the other day of the Eagles-Vikings game and joined a radio show, which was so cool to come in and talk about how so-and-so's just not fitting their hands right 4 times in a row, and that's why they got beat. And everyone's like, what do you mean? I'm like, he wants to do it. The guy's got really long arms and he just couldn't fit. And he just lost the block. So I enjoy that stuff. I think that's really cool for the fans. And there's more access now for fans to be more knowledgeable, which is awesome. Awesome, awesome, awesome. Your show, my show, other shows, Baldy's breakdowns, it's better. There's more polished fans out there now, which I think is cool too. So I'm a fan of it. Again, if you can handle it as a player and the maturity side of it and realize that you're going to screw up in football a lot, really. And I think the older players understand that and younger players don't. So no, that's my final word. I think it's really good for the game. And, it's good for media companies. It's good for high school coaches. It's fun stuff.
No, and I think, people get to see behind the helmet, football, you don't get to see as much expression as you do maybe in some other sports, because guys are covered, they have pads on, they got helmets, where players are able to create another life. I mean, it's awesome to see what the Kelsey brothers are doing. I mean, it was an awesome documentary to see filming that, and then the podcast that they've got with New Heights show and everything that's going on, to where there is this association with not only what guys are doing on the field or maybe what a coach is doing, kind of having that insight, and then also educating the general population, because anytime we can help elevate the game, this is a game that's ever changing. I mean, you watch all 22, you've got the access to pro football, college football. I mean, there's games on every single night. It's amazing how much people are learning about the game and how much the game is evolving. It is truly, if you're not trying to progress, you're going to be left behind. And that's where I think it's really neat to see the development, the coverage of the game, and really the development of the position that we coach on the offensive line. It is the hardest one to catch up, because you've got freak athletes coming off the edge, and you've got some phenomenal interior players that you got to find a way to scheme them. You can't just straight drop back 6-man pro and expect your quarterback to stand back there and full field read. Like, you have to be able to develop your body and develop your football IQ. Like, there are kids that come train with us and they look great and they're awesome on the doing skills and technique, but all of a sudden they don't know the scheme. They don't know the check. And all of a sudden you've seen it. You've seen multiple guys in your career. Hey, he's got all the skills in the world, can't put it together, can't figure it out. And that's why I think you've done so well, because you're a guy that, has the athletic ability, has the toughness, but also understands the game, and you can relate it to a coach. And that's exactly what you're looking for in a teammate.
Yeah. Well, thank you. It's humbling to hear you say that. Just the honesty, right? Like, the best compliment I've gotten was, one of them was uniquest, I should say. The most unique was from Joe Brady. When they cut me in Carolina and then they signed me the next day to the 53s, Joe's like, Colin, I love you because you know exactly who you are. And I love you for that. And every day you're the same guy. I was like, boom, that's all I need to hear. So, and George DeLeon, other compliment. Best O-line guy is unbelievable. Just because he's a legend. Like, he would just fall asleep in meeting stuff. He said, I'll always remember you, Thompson. You'll always be a football guy. And I was like, boom, that's all I need to hear.
Say, yes, sir. And I can die on the right side.
And it was right here after we won the conference championship against Navy. I'm 100 yards from Naval Academy Stadium. But no, you bring up great points, Jaime. Guys, primarily the offensive line position is talked about now so much.
Right.
It never was before. I mean, the Eagles, like, the top 3 selling jerseys on the Eagles are Lane Johnson, Kelsey, and Mailata. People are buying Dickerson jerseys. Right. Like, that would never happen. So,
no, never.
It's awesome. And
I think people relate. You're kind of like the forgotten guys, and all of a sudden now there's a little bit of spotlight on the offensive line, whether it's good or bad. You're going to be,
and they're getting preachier too. Yeah. Like, you could root for that guy a little bit because you're like, oh, I want to be like him. I'll never will be. There's also that, like Lane Johnson or Jordan Mailata. It's like, I can never, I maybe be closer to Jason Kelsey, maybe.
But Lane Johnson, it's not even a person.
Lane, like, not even a human being. And so was Jordan Mailata. Like, I think I put him as the top athlete in Philadelphia. Everyone's like, what are you talking about? I'm like, athletically, you see his rugby highlights, like, the dude's 6'8", 350. So I digress. I think the media coverage and the social media, like, all the clips and all, is so much fun, and people are learning. I got friends asking me questions. Alan having a beer that I never got before. And I'm like, damn, you actually know what you're talking about? Like, no, but I just heard it on McAfee.
They just,
no, but I heard a really cool question. Watch this.
Yeah. So no, it's good stuff. It really is, man. I'm excited. Well, hopefully they merge, man. That would be awesome.
Yeah. Well, perfect segue. Our final sponsor is Lineman Performance Academy and Clint Anderson. Clint actually trains Lane Johnson. And he's donated some of the equipment that we use, and LPA builds confidence through functional strength. I love this quote from him, from Clint Anderson and LPA. The only proof of ability is performance. And I think that's pretty cool. Just talking about, you're only as good as what you put on film. And he's trained guys with 5-strong training, like Creed Humphreys and Lane Johnson, a bunch of those guys that come and train with him in the off season. And so I got the chance to meet Clint down at O-Line Masterminds with Duke Manyweather. And, it's just a cool fraternity of coaches, of trainers, what Gerald and I are trying to do with kids here in Colorado, what 5 is 1 is expanding at different states around the country. And right now, we want kids to focus on their team. But as the season winds down, and if guys aren't wrestling or playing basketball or doing all those other sports, offensive line play is something that is those skills, that technique needs to develop. And we appreciate all our sponsors that allow us to help kids the best we can, whether it's middle school, high school, college guys, pro guys. So we appreciate all that. And Colin, man, it is so cool to have you on. We appreciate the time. We look forward to seeing you in a uniform here soon. You're a type of guy that's going to work and grind and add to a team's roster. And I love the time that we had together. And I could still hear, we're out there at practice and you're over there yelling at McCray, say, who's the mic point? Who's the mic? Who's the mic? Who do we got? Because the tight end can't function until he hears what the O-line's doing. And you were so in tune to that. You weren't afraid to ask those questions and call a guy out. And no one got their feelings hurt. Everybody's a big boy. They're going to pull their big boy pants on. And it's like, if you're vulnerable and going to put yourself out there, then, hey, let's go do all this thing together. And that was really cool with the group that we had with Mark Tressman and Tampa and 2.0. And, excited to see the things that you're doing, man. And it's awesome to have you on and a little reunion tour for the Bible.
It's the best thing in the world. Happy to see you, my guy. We still got to get you're saying we need to go to like Key West. Was that what it was?
Hey, you guys are in spring league, but every year,
look, just tell me
every year, the week before the Super Bowl, okay, we have a camp for kids down there. We need coaches, and then I'm going to need you after for a camaraderie retreat.
We know that retreat. Yeah, we're there.
Wait, here is it. Where's the camp? Give us a lowdown.
It's in Key West. We did it a couple of years ago. We go on a tight end trip every year to Key West when I was in Carolina. And we did it the one year, and I'm like, all right, we just partied the whole time. And it was a great time. Don't get me wrong. I'm like, we have all these guys that want to come down every year. Coaches, players. And you know me, I'm come one, come all. Coaches and players, let's do it. So we do it the week before the Super Bowl, and we had 140 kids there last year. We put it together in 2 months. And we had all these sponsors, and we raised probably $1,000 for 2 different charities. And that was just on a whim. So this year we're going to double it up. We're going to have a Super Bowl concert the next weekend. It's this whole thing we're kind of putting together now. So a lot of things going on, but
we'll talk. I'm up for some fun.
Get all the 5 is 1 gear on. We'll get, maybe get some kids some stuff too, wristbands or something. We'll figure it out.
Because, that's the time. December, January, as we get rolling, there's going to be some satellite camps. So we may have to get Joe them to Key West,
Work with the kids. There's an O-lineman there that's going to Florida State, I believe, which is very rare. End of the road. There's one player in the NFL there, and the GM of the Titans is from Key West. So very unique spot. Mike Leach, man, he's the real legend from there. He's a huge RIP. But I'll say this in closing. I can't thank you guys enough for coming on. And then for parents out there, and I know you have a lot of coaches, players, kids listening, I think football, and you guys can attest to this, is safer than it's ever been. I say that to every parent. What we did when I started, we had to earn our water breaks. We'd one a day. And if you got your bell wrong, you stood on the sideline and you went back in. So it's better than it's ever been for sure. So thanks for having me, guys. And you guys are just first class, always been great friends, and looking forward to what's next for all of us.
I appreciate it, man. And it's great to see you. Wish you all the best with your podcast, with Not For Long Media. Lots going on. And with that being said,
it was good talking to you, my boy. Love you, man.
Love you too. GBR.
Go Big Red, baby.
Thanks, guys. Hit the like, subscribe, follow the show, and we'll see you next time. Take care.